The stars had always been quiet. For 300 years, humanity spread across the darkness between worlds, building colonies, raising families, and dreaming of a peaceful future. 12 worlds now carried the flag of the Terran Alliance. Billions of humans lived under alien suns, and not once had they met another thinking species. Some scientists believed they were alone. Others hoped they were wrong. On the morning that changed everything, Admiral Park stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dawn. He was 58 years old, with gray hair cut short and a face that showed every year of military service. His fleet patrolled the outer edges of the solar system, near Saturn, watching for pirates and smugglers. It was boring work. Did not mind boring work. Boring meant safe. His communications officer, a young woman named Iam, suddenly sat up straight at her station. Her face went pale. "Admiral," she said, "we are receiving a signal. It is not human." Walked to her station. His boots made no sound on the metal floor. "Show me." The main screen flickered. What appeared made every person on the bridge stop breathing. Ships, hundreds of ships. They came out of nowhere, appearing in flashes of blue light near Saturn's rings. Each ship was massive, bigger than anything humanity had ever built. The smallest was the size of a city. The largest was the size of a small moon. They hung in space like dark mountains, blocking out the stars. "What are they?" someone whispered. Before anyone could answer, the signal came through. It was not a video. It was just a voice, cold and flat, speaking in perfect English. "You are species 4291. You will submit to Dominion authority. Your military forces will stand down. Your leaders will present themselves for processing. Resistance is not permitted. You have 72 hours. The message repeated, then it stopped. Stood very still. His heart was beating fast, but his face showed nothing. He had trained for war his entire life. He had never expected it to come from the stars. "Send this to Earth," he said quietly. "Priority 1, wake everyone up." 12 hours later, the Terran Council met in the Great Hall beneath the Korean mountains. Leaders from all 12 colony worlds attended through holographic screens. The room was full of worried faces and frightened voices. Defense Minister Jinnah sat at the head of the table. She was 63 years old, small and thin, with white hair pulled back tight. Her left arm was metal, lost in a war decades ago. She had seen death many times. She did not fear it. The arguments went on for hours. Some wanted to negotiate. Some wanted to surrender. Some wanted to run and hide in the outer systems. A young diplomat named spoke for the peace faction. "We know nothing about them," she said. "Perhaps they are reasonable. Perhaps we can find common ground. We should at least talk before we fight." An old general shook his head. "Our intelligence teams have been working since the ships appeared. We found records in old transmissions, stories from other parts of the galaxy. This Dominion has conquered thousands of species. They do not negotiate. They take." "What happens to the species they conquer?" someone asked. The general's face was grim. "Slavery. Their culture is erased. Their children are taken and raised to serve. Within 3 generations, the conquered species forgets it was ever free." Silence fell over the room. Jinnah stood up slowly. Everyone turned to look at her. "I have listened to every argument," she said. Her voice was soft but clear. "I understand the fear. I feel it too. These beings have done this 1,000 times. They have ships we cannot match. They have weapons we do not understand. They expect us to kneel." She paused. Her metal fingers tapped the table once. "But I did not spend 40 years defending humanity so that I could be slaves. I did not lose my arm so that we could surrender our freedom without a single shot fired." She looked around the room, meeting every pair of eyes. "They expect obedience. They expect us to be like every other species they have crushed, weak, afraid, easy." Her voice grew stronger. "Let us show them what humanity is made of. Let us teach them that some species do not kneel, some species fight, and some species would rather die free than live in chains. The vote was called. One by one, the representatives cast their decisions. When it was finished, the result was unanimous. The Terran Alliance chose war. On Saturn, Admiral received the news. He read the message 3 times to make sure he understood. Then he called his officers together. "We have 72 hours," he said. "In that time we will prepare. We will study these ships. We will find their weaknesses. And when they come for us, we will meet them with everything we have." His tactical officer, a serious young man named, looked at the enemy fleet on the screen. "Sir, their ships are enormous. Our weapons may not even scratch their shields." Nodded. "Then we will find new weapons. We will invent new tactics. Humanity did not conquer 12 worlds by giving up when things were hard." He turned to face his crew. These were young men and women, most of them born in peacetime. They had never seen real war. Now they would see the worst war in human history. "I will not lie to you," said. "Many of us will die, perhaps all of us. But if we do not fight, our families will become slaves. Our children will forget what freedom means. Our entire species will disappear into their empire, just another number in their records." He straightened his uniform. "I choose to fight. I choose to stand. Whatever comes, I will face it on my feet, not on my knees. Anyone who wishes to leave may do so. I will not judge you." No one moved. No one spoke. Every officer stood at attention, waiting for orders. Felt something warm in his chest. Pride. These were his people. This was humanity. "Then let us begin," he said. "We have work to do." Across the 12 worlds, the news spread like fire. People gathered in streets, in homes, in public squares. They watched their leaders announce the decision. They heard the enemy's demands, and they made their choice. On Earth, factories began to change. Machines that built cars now built weapons. Scientists who studied stars now studied shields. Teachers and doctors and farmers signed up for military training. On Mars, the great shipyards burned bright through the night as workers built new vessels around the clock. On distant colony worlds, miners dug deeper for metal. Engineers designed new armor. Children wrote letters to soldiers they had never met, telling them to be brave. The Dominion watched all of this from their massive ships. Their observers noted the activity with mild interest. "The species is mobilizing," one reported to his commander. "They appear to be preparing for resistance." The commander, a tall creature with dark scales and cold eyes, made a sound like laughter. "They always do this at first. Give them time. When they see our true power, they will break. They always break." He turned away from the screen. "Prepare the invasion force. In 72 hours, we will add another species to the Dominion. This will be quick." He could not have been more wrong. In the mountains of Korea, Defense Minister Jinnah stood alone on a balcony, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, an enemy waited, an enemy that had never lost, an enemy that expected easy victory. She smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Come then," she whispered to the darkness. "Come and learn what humanity can do." The countdown had begun. The first day after the announcement was chaos. The second day was fear. But by the third day, something else began to happen, something the Dominion had never seen before. Humanity woke up. Lieutenant Miso was 29 years old. She had spent 6 years behind a desk, analyzing old battle reports and writing papers no one read. She was good at her job, but it was quiet work, safe work. She had never fired a weapon outside of training. On the morning of the third day, 2 soldiers came to her office. They told her to pack 1 bag and come with them. No questions, no explanations. Miso found herself on a transport ship, flying over the Pacific Ocean toward a small island that did not appear on any map. The island held a secret research facility, hidden underground, where humanity's greatest scientists worked on projects the public never knew about. A man waited for her at the entrance. He was tall and thin, with messy hair and dark circles under his eyes. He looked like he had not slept in days. His name was Doctor, and he was considered either a genius or a madman, depending on who you asked. "You are the tactical analyst," said. It was not a question. "Good. I need someone who understands weapons. Come with me." He led her deep underground, through doors that required fingerprint and eye scans to open. Finally, they reached a laboratory filled with equipment Miso did not recognize. In the center of the room sat a small device, no bigger than a football. It glowed with soft blue light. "What is that?" Miso asked. Picked up the device carefully. "This is 20 years of my life. Everyone called me crazy. They said it was impossible. They cut my funding twice." He smiled, and there was something wild in his eyes. "But I never stopped working." He set the device down on a table. "The Dominion ships have shields, very strong shields. Normal weapons cannot break through. Missiles, lasers, rail guns, nothing works. We have seen the records from other species. They tried everything and failed." Miso nodded. This was the problem everyone was talking about. The enemy ships were simply too strong. But continued, "Their shields work by manipulating quantum fields. They create a barrier that exists in a state between dimensions. It is brilliant technology, far beyond ours. So how do we break it?" Smile grew wider. "We do not break it, we make it break itself." He tapped the glowing device. "This creates a quantum disruption wave. When it hits their shields, the fields become unstable. They collapse. And when the shields collapse, the hull of the ship follows. The whole thing falls apart like wet paper." Miso stared at the device. "Has it been tested?" "In laboratory conditions, yes. Against an actual Dominion ship," shook his head. "We have never had the chance, until now." He looked at her with serious eyes. "They brought you here because you understand tactics. I can build the weapon. I need you to figure out how to use it." Miso thought about the massive ship she had seen on the news. She thought about the cold voice demanding surrender. She thought about her parents, her brother, her friends. "Show me everything," she said. Far away, on a colony world called New, another kind of awakening was happening. Was 54 years old. She had served in the military for 20 years before retiring to raise her daughter. Now she was a grandmother. Her days were filled with simple things: cooking, gardening, playing with her granddaughter. War was a distant memory. Then the recall notice arrived. Stared at the paper for a long time. It ordered all veterans with combat experience to report for duty within 48 hours. Failure to comply was not an option. Her daughter found her sitting at the kitchen table with the notice in her hands. "Mom, what is that?" Handed her the paper. She watched her daughter's face change as she read it. "No," said. "No, you are too old. They cannot do this." "They can, they must." His voice was calm. "We need everyone. You have seen the enemy ships. You know what they want." "But you served already. You gave them 20 years. Let the young soldiers fight." Took her daughter's hands. "The young soldiers have not seen real war. I have. They need people who know what fighting really means. People who will not panic when the shooting starts." His eyes filled with tears. "What about us? What about?" Was granddaughter. She was 7 years old, full of energy and laughter. The thought of leaving her was like a knife in his heart. "I am doing this for her," said quietly. "If I do not fight, who will? If no one stands up, what happens to all the children?" She stood up and walked to the closet. In the back, behind old clothes and boxes of memories, was a case. She pulled it out and opened it. Inside was her old rifle, cleaned and oiled, waiting. Watched her mother check the weapon with practiced hands. It was like watching a stranger. "You kept it," she whispered. "I always knew," said. "Somewhere deep inside, I always knew peace would not last forever." The next morning, put on her old uniform. It still fit. She stood at the door with her bag over her shoulder, ran to her and grabbed her leg. "Where are you going, grandmother?" Knelt down and hugged her tight. She breathed in the smell of her hair, felt the small arms around her neck. She wanted to remember this moment forever. "I have to go help some people," she said. "Bad things are coming and someone has to stop them." "Are you scared?" Smiled, "A little, but being brave does not mean you are not scared. It means you do what is right even when you are scared." Nodded seriously. "Will you come back?" Looked into her granddaughter's eyes. She could not lie, not to her. "I will try my very best," she said. "And while I am gone, you must be brave too. Take care of your mother, be a good girl." "I will, grandmother, I promise." Kissed her forehead one last time. Then she stood up, looked at her daughter and walked out the door. She did not look back. If she looked back, she would not be able to leave. All across the 12 worlds, similar scenes happened. Fathers left sons. Mothers left daughters. Young people who had never held a weapon signed up to learn. Old people who thought their fighting days were over put on uniforms again. Factories ran day and night. Workers slept in shifts, never stopping production. Ships that took years to build were completed in weeks. Weapons that existed only on paper became real. The Dominion observers reported all of this to their commanders. The data was unusual. "The species shows remarkable coordination," one observer noted. "They are converting their entire economy to war production. This is unprecedented at this scale." The Dominion general reviewed the reports with growing irritation. "It does not matter," he said. "Other species have tried to arm themselves. Their weapons bounced off our shields. Their soldiers died in waves. Numbers mean nothing against superior technology. But the speed of their response is meaningless." The general waved a claw dismissively. "They are building weapons from fear and desperation. In 72 hours we will crush them. In a month they will be working in our minds. In a generation they will have forgotten they ever resisted." He looked at the blue planet on his screen. "Earth, of species 4291. Prepare the assault. This will be over quickly." But in that underground laboratory, Lieutenant Miso and Doctor worked through the night, surrounded by blueprints and calculations. They were designing the first quantum disruptor missiles. They were inventing new tactics. They were preparing surprises. And in a military transport heading toward a training camp, Sargent sat among hundreds of other recalled veterans. They were old, tired, and scared. But they were also experienced, determined, and angry. The Dominion expected obedience. They expected surrender. They expected another easy conquest. They had no idea what was coming. The 72 hours ended at midnight, Earth time. Admiral Park watched the countdown on his screen. His fleet was positioned near Titan, Saturn's largest moon. Behind him were the orbital defense stations. Ahead of him was the darkness of space, and somewhere in that darkness, the enemy waited. His communications officer, IM, looked up from her station. "Admiral, the deadline has passed. The Dominion fleet is moving." "How many?" 147 ships. They are heading toward Earth." Felt his stomach tighten. 147 ships, each one bigger than anything humanity had built. Against them, he had 43 ships and a handful of experimental weapons that had never been tested in real combat. "What are our orders?" his tactical officer asked. Looked at the faces around him. Young faces, scared faces, but not broken, not yet. "We cannot stop them here," he said. "Our job is to slow them down, give Earth more time, make them pay for every kilometer." He opened a channel to all ships. "This is Admiral Park. The enemy is coming. Many of us will not survive this day, but every minute we buy, every ship we damage brings humanity closer to survival. Fight hard, die well, make them remember us." The channel closed, sat in his command chair and waited. The first Dominion ships appeared on sensors 30 minutes later. They came in formation, massive and confident. Their shields glowed with energy, their weapons charged. Commander Han is requesting permission to lead the attack, reported. Nodded was his best combat officer, young, reckless, brilliant. If anyone could hurt the enemy, it was him. Permission granted. Tell him to use the new weapons. Let us see if Doctor's invention works. Han was 31 years old. He had grown up in space on a mining station near Jupiter. He knew ships like other people knew their own hands. His squadron was small, just 8 frigates, old and outdated. But they carried something new, something the Dominion had never seen. All ships, said into his communicator, arm quantum disruptor missiles. Target the lead cruiser. Fire on my mark. His weapons officer looked nervous. Sir, those missiles are untested. We do not know if. We are about to find out. Fire. 8 missiles launched. They crossed the distance in seconds, small and fast. The Dominion cruiser did not even bother to shoot them down. Why would they? Normal missiles did nothing. The missiles hit the shield. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the shield flickered, it sparked. It twisted in ways that should not be possible, and then it collapsed. The Dominion cruiser seemed to shiver. Its hull began to break apart. Pieces of metal floated away. Lights went dark. In less than 10 seconds, the massive ship simply fell to pieces, like a building made of sand. Silence filled the bridge of the eternal dawn. No one could believe what they had just seen. Did that just happen? Whispered. Leaned forward in his chair, his eyes wide. It worked. It actually worked. The Dominion fleet stopped. For the first time in 800 years, one of their ships had been destroyed by a lesser species. The commanders stared at their screens in disbelief. Impossible, one said. Run diagnostics, check for errors. No errors, another replied. The ship is gone, their weapons, they did something to our shields. Before they could react, more missiles came. 2 more cruisers died, then a destroyer, then another. Commander Han led his frigates in fast attacks, darting in and out of the enemy formation. He was laughing, actually laughing, as his ship dodged enemy fire. Keep moving, he shouted. They are big but slow, use it against them. But the Dominion recovered quickly. They had not survived thousands of years by being stupid. They changed their formations, increased their shield power, and started coordinating their fire. Squadron began to take losses. 1 frigate exploded, then another. The enemy was adapting. Pull back, ordered. You have done enough, do not waste your lives. Looked at his screen. 3 of his ships were gone, 2 more were damaged, but they had destroyed 7 enemy vessels. 7. It was a miracle. Understood, Admiral. We are retreating. The battle continued for hours. Humanity lost 20 ships that day. The Dominion lost 19. It was not a victory, but it was not the total defeat everyone expected. When the Dominion fleet finally pushed through and continued toward Earth, they left behind more dead ships than they had lost in the previous 50 campaigns combined. Far away on the colony world of, a different kind of battle began. The Dominion landed ground troops, thousands of soldiers in heavy armor, carrying weapons that could vaporize stone. They expected to march into cities and accept surrenders. They expected crowds of terrified humans begging for mercy. Instead, they found empty streets, silent buildings, no one. The Dominion commander was confused. Where were the people? His sensors showed life signs in the forest outside the city, many life signs. They are hiding, he told his soldiers. Cowards, fan out and bring them to me. His soldiers marched into the forest. They were tall and strong, trained for centuries. They feared nothing. They should have been afraid. The first explosion killed 12 soldiers, a hidden bomb buried beneath the ground. Before the survivors could react, gunfire came from the trees. Human soldiers, if they could be called soldiers. Some were old, some were young, some wore pieces of uniform, others wore civilian clothes. Leading them was Sergeant. She had arrived on 3 days ago and had immediately begun organizing the defense. She gathered every veteran she could find. She trained every volunteer. She built traps and set ambushes. "Fire and move," she shouted. "Do not stay in one place. Hit them and disappear." Her squad was made of farmers and shopkeepers. They had learned to shoot only weeks ago, but they followed her orders without question. They fired at the enemy, then ran before the return fire could find them. The Dominion soldiers were stronger, better equipped, better trained, but they had never fought like this. They expected organized formations. They expected enemies who stood and died. These humans did not fight fair. They hid. They ran. They struck from shadows and vanished like ghosts. Hours passed. The Dominion advance slowed. They took the city, but it cost them. Hundreds of soldiers dead, more wounded, and the humans were still out there, still fighting. A wounded Dominion soldier was captured during a raid. Stood over him, her rifle ready. Through a translator device, the alien spoke. "Why do you fight? You cannot win. No species ever wins." Looked at this creature that had come to enslave her people. She thought of her granddaughter. She thought of all the children who would grow up in chains if she failed. "Because you told us we could not." The alien did not understand. How could he? His species had conquered thousands of worlds. They had never met anyone who refused to give up. They had never faced humans. "You are illogical," the alien said. "Your resistance only increases your suffering." Smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Maybe, but your suffering has just begun." She turned and walked away, leaving the alien to the medical team. There would be more fighting tonight, more tomorrow, and every day after until the enemy left or everyone was dead. News of the battle spread across the 12 worlds, the impossible victories, the stubborn resistance. Humanity was not winning, but humanity was not losing either. That alone was a miracle. In his flagship, Admiral read the reports. His fleet was damaged but still fighting. The ground troops on were holding. The new weapons worked. For the first time since the Dominion arrived, he allowed himself to feel something like hope. "They are not invincible," he said to his officers. "They can bleed, they can break, they can lose." He looked at the stars through his window. "And if they can lose, we can win." The real war had just begun. 6 months had passed since the first battle at Titan, 6 months of war, 6 months of death, and humanity was still fighting. Admiral Park sat in his command bunker beneath the Korean mountains. He was 60 years old now, though he looked 70. Sleep came rarely. Food had no taste. Every day brought reports of lost ships, lost soldiers, lost colonies, but also victories, small victories that added up. The war had changed everything. Earth's cities were half empty, their populations moved underground. The skies were filled with defense satellites and patrol ships. Children learned to use emergency shelters before they learned to read. But humanity had not broken. On the wall of his office hung a simple paper with numbers. Enemy ships destroyed, 847. Human ships lost, 392. It was not a good ratio, but it was better than anyone had expected. Much better. His door opened. Lieutenant Misa walked in, now wearing the rank of commander. She had changed in 6 months. The quiet desk analyst was gone. In her place was a hardened strategist who had planned victories that would be studied for centuries. "The new fleet is ready," she said. 42 ships with upgraded weapons and shields. Doctor finished the installations last night. Nodded. "And the special project?" Miso smiled slightly. It was the first time he had seen her smile in weeks. "Ready, says it will work. He says it will end everything." Stood up and walked to the window. Outside was stone and artificial light. He had not seen the real sun in months. "Do you trust him?" "His weapons have saved us so far. Without the quantum disruptors, we would already be slaves." That was true. Doctor's inventions had changed everything. His quantum disruptors had killed hundreds of enemy ships. His shield generators had protected cities from orbital bombardment. His communication jammers had blinded enemy fleets. The man who everyone called crazy had become humanity's most valuable weapon. "Tell me about the special project," said. Miso pulled out a tablet and showed him the designs. "It is called the Cascade device, a much larger version of the quantum disruptor. Instead of destroying one ship, it creates a wave that spreads through space. Any enemy ship within range, their shields collapse, their engines fail, their weapons go dead. Range: 50,000 kilometers, maybe more." Stared at the design. One device that could disable an entire fleet. "How long until they discover a counter?" "Unknown, but we cannot wait forever. Says the enemy is adapting. They are studying our technology, learning from it. Every month our advantage gets smaller." Understood. This war could not last forever. Humanity's resources were limited. Their population was small. The Dominion had thousands of worlds, billions of soldiers, endless ships. In a long war, humanity would lose. "We need a decisive victory," he said. "One battle that breaks their will to fight." "Yes, and I have a plan." Miso spread out star charts on his desk. She showed him enemy positions, supply lines, fleet movements. She had been studying the Dominion for 6 months. She knew them better than they knew themselves. "They think in patterns," she explained. "They have fought the same way for centuries. Attack, conquer, absorb, move on. They have never lost a real war. They do not know how to lose. That is their weakness." "Exactly. They will commit everything to one final attack. They have to. If they fail here, other conquered species will see it. They will rise up. The empire will crumble." Saw what she was suggesting. "We let them come. We let them bring everything. And then we use the Cascade device." Not just one device. Has built 3. We position them at different points. When the enemy fleet is in the kill zone, we activate all 3 at once. It was risky, everything on one throw of the dice. If it worked, humanity would win. If it failed, humanity would die. Thought about it for a long time. He thought about the soldiers who had died trusting his orders. He thought about the colonies that had burned. He thought about the children still learning to hide from bombs. "Do it," he said finally. "Send the word to all fleets. Prepare for the final battle." Far away in the throne room of the Dominion, the Overlord received reports of the war. He was ancient, older than most stars. He had seen thousands of species rise and fall. He had built an empire that spanned galaxies. Nothing surprised him anymore. Until now. "Explain this to me," he said to his generals. "One small species, 12 worlds, how are they still fighting?" The generals looked at each other. No one wanted to answer. Finally, the highest general spoke. "They are different, Overlord. They adapt faster than any species we have encountered. They learn from every battle. They turn their weaknesses into strengths. They are vermin. Vermin do not defeat the Dominion." "With respect, Overlord, we have lost more ships in 6 months than in the previous 1,000 years. Our soldiers refuse to land on certain planets because the resistance is too fierce. This species does not surrender. They do not negotiate. They simply keep fighting." The Overlord was silent for a long time. He remembered the early days of the Dominion before they became conquerors. His own species had been like these humans once. Fierce, stubborn, unbreakable. That was why they had conquered the galaxy, because they never gave up. Now they faced a species just as stubborn. "Gather everything," he said. "Every ship, every soldier, every weapon. We go to there, we end this ourselves." "Overlord, that will leave our other territories weakened." "I do not care. If we cannot crush these humans, nothing else matters. Our empire is built on fear. If one species can resist us, others will try. We must make an example." The generals bowed. Orders went out across the empire. Ships began to gather. The largest fleet in Dominion history prepared to move. On Earth, humanity watched the skis and waited. In her command center, Miso received the intelligence report. The enemy was coming, all of them. "This is it," she said to her staff. "They are doing exactly what we wanted, bringing everything to one place. Are we ready?" Miso looked at the screens showing human fleet positions. The 3 cascade devices were in place. The trap was set. "We are ready. Now we just have to survive long enough to spring it." On the colony world of, Sergeant heard the news. The enemy ground forces were pulling back, retreating to their ships. They were leaving to join the final attack on Earth. Her soldiers gathered around her. They were tired and wounded, many of them, but they were alive. They had held the line for 6 months. "What do we do now?" one of them asked. Looked at the sky. Somewhere up there, the fate of humanity would be decided. "We go to Earth," she said. "The final battle is coming, our place is there." Her soldiers nodded. None of them questioned it. None of them suggested staying behind where it was safe. They had fought too long and lost too many friends to miss the end. "Pack your gear," ordered. "We leave in 1 hour." She walked away to send a message to her family, a short message, maybe the last message. "I am going to Earth. I will see you when it is over. Take care of each other. I love you all." She pressed send and did not wait for a reply. There was no time for goodbyes now. The final battle was coming, and humanity would face it together. The Dominion fleet arrived above Earth on a cold morning in December. 2,000 ships, the largest armada in galactic history. They filled the sky like a second night, blocking out the sun. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, humanity's new flagship. Around him, every ship humanity possessed waited in formation. 112 vessels against 2,000. It should have been hopeless. But hope was all humanity had left. "All ships report ready," Commander Miso said from her station. She had become the tactical commander of the fleet. Every ship followed her orders now. Every battle plan came from her mind. Looked at her and nodded. She was not the quiet analyst he had met 6 months ago. She was a warrior now. They all were. "The cascade devices?" he asked. "In position, hidden among our defense satellites. The enemy will not detect them until we activate." "Good, now we wait." The Dominion fleet did not attack immediately. First came a transmission. The Overlord himself appeared on every screen, a massive creature of scales and shadows, older than human civilization. "Humans," his voice echoed. "You have fought well, better than any species before you. We offer you one final chance. Surrender now and we will spare your people will serve us, but they will live. Refuse and we will destroy everything, every city, every life. Nothing will remain." Let the message play to every ship, every colony, every person watching. Then he replied, "We received your ultimatum 72 hours ago. Our answer has not changed." He straightened his uniform. "Humanity does not kneel." The Overlord's eyes narrowed. "Then you choose death." "We choose freedom, whatever the cost." The transmission ended. Both sides prepared for battle. "All ships," Miso announced, "execute defensive formation. Draw them toward the kill zone. Do not fire the cascade devices until I give the order." The battle began. Dominion ships advanced in perfect waves. Their weapons lit up the darkness. Human ships scattered, dodged, and returned fire. The quantum disruptors worked as always, dropping enemy shields and destroying ships. But there were so many, too many. The first human ship died within minutes, then another, then a dozen. On the bridge, watched the numbers fall. His hands gripped the armrests until his knuckles turned white. "Hold the line," he ordered. "Draw them in just a little more." The Dominion commander saw the human fleet falling back. He smiled. "They break at last. All ships advance, finish them." The enemy fleet surged forward, eager for the kill. They pushed into the space between Earth and Moon, exactly where Miso wanted them. Admiral, Miso said quietly, they are in the kill zone. Looked at the screen. 2,000 enemy ships, packed together in their eagerness to destroy humanity. The Cascade devices were positioned perfectly. Do it. Miso pressed the button. 3 pulses of energy burst from hidden satellites. They spread outward like ripples in water, invisible but deadly. When they hit the Dominion ships, the effect was immediate. Shields flickered and died. Engines went dark. Weapons powered down. Across the enemy fleet, ships began to drift, their systems failing one after another. What is happening? The Overlord demanded. Report. We do not know. Our systems, everything is failing. The human fleet opened fire. Without shields, the Dominion ships were defenseless. Missiles and rail guns tore through their hulls. Explosions bloomed across the sky like flowers of fire. But it was not over. Some Dominion ships were outside the Cascade range. They counterattacked. Some of the affected ships managed to restore partial power. The battle continued, bloody and brutal. Commander Han led his squadron into the center of the enemy formation. He was older now, his ship barely holding together after months of combat. Pull back, Miso ordered. You are too deep. Negative, Commander. There is a carrier launching fighters. If it reaches full power, it will turn the battle. I am going to stop it. You will not survive. Looked at his crew, young men and women who had followed him through every battle. They nodded at him. They understood. Tell my family I love them, said. It has been an honor. He cut communications. His ship accelerated toward the carrier. Enemy fire raked his hull. Systems failed. Crew members died, but the ship kept going. At the last moment, aimed his vessel at the carrier's engine section. The collision was massive. Both ships exploded in a blast that lit up the sky. On the Indomitable, Miso closed her eyes for a moment. Then she opened them and continued giving orders. There would be time to mourn later, if there was a later. On Earth, the ground battle raged. Dominion soldiers had landed before the Cascade activated. They fought through the streets of every major city, meeting human defenders at every corner. Sergeant led the defense of Seoul. She had arrived just hours before the battle began. Her body was exhausted. Her ammunition was low, but she kept fighting. Fall back to the second barricade, she ordered. Do not let them through. The enemy soldiers pushed forward. They were desperate now, knowing their fleet was dying above them. But desperate enemies were the most dangerous. A Dominion soldier broke through the line. He raised his weapon at a group of civilian volunteers who had not yet retreated. Moved without thinking, she tackled the alien rolling across the ground. His weapon fired wild, missing the civilians. She pulled her knife and struck again and again until the soldier stopped moving. She stood up, covered in alien blood. The volunteers stared at her with wide eyes. Move, she said, now. They ran, stayed behind, covering their retreat. In orbit, the battle reached its climax. The Dominion fleet was crippled but not destroyed. The Overlord's throne ship still functioned, protected by layers of shielding that had resisted the Cascade. Target that ship, ordered, everything we have. Every surviving human vessel turned its weapons on the throne ship. Missiles, lasers, rail guns, quantum disruptors, all fired at once. The shields held, then flickered, then cracked. The throne ship began to break apart. Escape pods launched. One of them carried the Overlord himself, fleeing the destruction. Let him go, Miso said. Let him tell the others what happened here. Nodded, the enemy needed to survive. They needed to carry the story back to their empire. They needed to spread fear. The battle lasted 3 more hours. When it ended, the sky was full of wreckage. Human ships, Dominion ships, millions of tons of metal and thousands of bodies drifting in the darkness. But Earth was free. Days later, a transmission came from the retreating Dominion forces. The Overlord spoke one last time. "This is unexpected. You were to be slaves, you were to serve. Instead, you have cost us more than any species in our history." A long pause. "We will not return. Let it be known across the galaxy, humanity is not to be touched. They have earned their place among the stars." The transmission ended, the Dominion fled. And humanity had won. 1 year after the battle, a memorial service was held in Seoul. Millions of people gathered to honor the dead. Names were read, candles were lit, tears were shed. Admiral Park attended but did not speak. He was retired now, living quietly in the mountains. He had given everything to the war. Now he wanted only peace. Defense Minister Jinnah became the first president of the new Terran Federation. In her speech, she honored everyone who had fought and died. "We were told to kneel," she said. "We were told resistance was impossible. We were told we were just another species to be conquered." She looked at the crowd. "We proved them wrong, not because we were stronger, not because we had better weapons, but because we refused to give up, because every human from the admiral to the farmer chose to fight." Doctor stood in the crowd, uncomfortable with attention. He had declined every honor offered to him. He just wanted to return to his laboratory. There was more work to do. There was always more work to do. Commander Miso was not at the memorial. She was in space, commanding humanity's first exploration fleet. Her mission, to find other species conquered by the Dominion, to help them rise, to spread the message of hope. Her flagship carried a signal that broadcast in every known language. They expected obedience. "We chose defiance, you can too." And far away on a quiet street in Seoul, Sargent walked home. She was 60 years old now, gray-haired and tired, but she was alive. Her granddaughter ran to meet her at the corner. Grandmother caught her in her arms and held her tight, was bigger now, almost too big to carry, but carried her anyway. "Did we win?" asked. She asked the same question every time they met. Smiled, the war was over, the enemy was gone, her family was safe. "Yes," she said, "we won." Above them the stars shone bright. Once they had been a source of fear, now they were a promise. Humanity had taken its place among them. And they would never kneel again.